better. Something we have been neglecting. A new life awaiting. I'm gonna pack my bags and move on and take a jump into a new life. We gotta make it alright. Hey, all real time. Come on and take it all or leave it. Come on and feel it and believe it. There is no stopping now. We're gonna show them how. Come on and prove it. Show me that you're ready. Come on and give it all you got. Wow, more than original. We are invincible. Come on and prove it. Show me that you're ready. Come on and give it all you got. Wow, more than original. We are invincible. Just feel the summer wind breathing your face now. With a smile, your eyes in sunshades. Going down to the beach. Don't know if you're invited. Supporting wild bodies, drizzle and lotion. Barbecue and show full of red flags. Make sure they know who's the big shot. People are having good times. Beach balls in the sand, alright. Waving to the ones you thought you knew. You never thought I'd be counting for awkward moments like these. A love in your throat like white. Just my look away, run straight ahead. Got your lucky break of getting yourself wet now. Wildcats will wanna scratch your back right. And no idea how hard it is to get attention. Jumping from a cliff, triple double axel flip. People cheering you, screaming amazing. Fist bumps in your Dr. Awesome. People are having good times. Beach balls in the sand, alright. Waving to the ones you thought you knew. You never thought I'd be counting for awkward moments like these. A love in your throat like white. Just my look away, run straight ahead. Don't know all the physics. Don't think it's complicated. Defying gravity. You just don't think, just feel. A doctor in the face.
4 months, 3 seasons. It all ends here. This is the final top 24 superstars race of the 2018 season Gran Turismo Championship, certified by the FIA, and it is here on Gran Turismo Live. It's the manufacturer series for the Americas region for the last time, and fingers crossed that our last top 24 superstars race of the season is a belter. Taking you through the action, it is myself, James Kirk, and joined for the final time by Mr. Jimmy Broadbent. I can't believe we're here, Jimmy, but here we are, and hopefully we'll have a great race as well.
It feels very weird to say this is the last race that we're going to be commentating on, but it's all come to a head now. This is the last race for the manufacturers, round 10 of season 3. Sorry,
yes,
got that. It's late for us. You're going to have to excuse us a little bit. But it doesn't make it any less epic, and I'm very much looking forward to it because manufacturers are one of my favourite series to commentate on. So
it's very much the same for me as well, and last chance for big points to make sure that these guys can A, get their manufacturer to the World Finals, B, make sure that they actually represent their manufacturer in the World Finals. But I doubt that many people will be joining us at this broadcast and saying, oh, I'm going to join and watch Gran Turismo Esports for the first time. If you are, though, A, go and watch everything else, but B, stick around because us two, as always, we're going to try and make things a little bit more clear for you. Jimmy, I guess we'll start with you as usual.
Now, I'm sure you've heard it all before, but this is what I'm here for. I'm here to explain to you what the FIA certified Gran Turismo Championships are, and here they are on your screen right now. The championships are divided into 2 cups: the Nations Cup, which is about representing your country and fighting for a place at the regional and then world finals, and the Manufacturer Series, which you are about to see, has our competitors representing their chosen manufacturer, and the best performers will qualify directly for the world finals in November. Now, the championships are divided into 3 regions. This is the Americas race. At the end of this round, a player from each of the 3 regions, so 3 players per manufacturer, will head to the World Final event to represent the top 16 manufacturers. Remember, you can see the races for both championships and all 3 regions on the Gran Turismo official YouTube page or via gran-turismo.com. Now, a quick reminder of the structure of the Manufacturer Series, because it can get a little bit confusing if maybe it's your first time. Each player signing up to Sport Mode in GT Sport chooses their manufacturer and enters into a type of contract with them for the year. They are loaned their cars to race, which is much like, of course, real-life racing. At the end of tonight, we'll have our America's champion for each manufacturer. They will join up with their counterparts from the other regions and head to the World Finals to represent that manufacturer. However, only the top 16 marks will be invited to the World Finals out of the 25 that are present in GT Sport, so it's a bit of a group effort. The winners of both Nations Cup and Manufacturer Series will be invited to the FIA Gala Awards dinner in St. Petersburg in December to collect their trophies. How cool is that?
So let's take a little look at the top 24 drivers in the points standings going into tonight. What we're really looking out for, Jimmy, of course, is if there are 2 people within maybe couple of thousand points of each other of the same manufacturer. So if we see them out on track and if they're duking it out, no holds barred, you'd understand why. There's a lot on the line. So it is Nico R in the BMW up there in first, and you'll notice already 2 Citroens within the top 8. Hellsfire on 12,312, Lloyd's Elite only 700 points behind on 11,595. That is a battle that we could potentially see on track. That could be decided tonight about who goes through to the Worlds. We also have big names in there. Racing 17 for Nissan, Turismo Leicester for Dodge, Ant with Chevrolet, Gumball with the Mercedes, of course, Steph Sun, the Canadian. He's been doing great in that Ferrari in P8. And moving on down then, thinking back to Turismo Leicester, McQueen 91. He's got some work to do there in the Dodge. We've got 3 Porsches in the space of these 8 drivers. Racing King, Road Beef, Solid, all of them with a lot on the line as well. Doodle in a Nissan, of course, seeing Racing 17 up ahead. He'll be wanting to do well. Dodge Lamb's in the first of those Alphas. Wildfire's in the Hyundai. And Faku Dudu is the lead of our Renault Sports in P16. And then rounding out our top 24, there is the lone Jaguar of Outlaw Quadrant. Another Porsche Honda racer choosing that. Sikaru's in the Mercedes. It might be a bit too much for him to win tonight, but then we look below them and to two Hondas that will be battling out as well if they're both in this top 24 Superstars race. Cristiano Saar and the last of our 24, Die Godlike. They're only within 400 points of each other. So as you can see, a lot is on the line, and there are some very close battles to be decided tonight. And so, Jimmy, of course, we've literally just had the benefit of seeing the European, Middle Eastern, African region races as well. But that hasn't always been a guide of how the Americas races go.
Very rarely is.
It very rarely is. But what we can talk about is the drivers within the Americas region. We've seen trends, of course, the cars themselves. We do know about their different characteristics. What cars are we going to be looking out for tonight? And what drivers in particular are we going to be looking out for tonight as well?
Well, we saw some strong performances from the Mercedes brand in the European race earlier on. But the ones I'm going to be watching most closely are the Porsches, because we have three drivers, as you mentioned, within 400 points of each other. In fact, two of the drivers are within about 50 points of each other at the moment. So it really is anyone's game for the Porsche. And they, again, to reiterate, basically the person that comes out at the end of this race with the most points, they'll be the one going forward for the manufacturers. So definitely a bit of inter-team rivalry there.
It needs a bit of passion. It needs a bit of flair. And honestly, the track we're going to is one of my personal favorites, and I feel like it just represents that feeling, that atmosphere perfectly. Jimmy, where are we heading for tonight's race?
Well, if you're a Formula One fan, you'll be very much familiar with this circuit. It is Interlagos, home turf for the likes of Racing 17, Solid and Hellfire. I wonder if that's going to make a difference at all. We'll see. A very technical, a very demanding circuit, so let's have a look at it in this awesome short video sent over from the guys from Japan. There it is, Interlagos, located near Sao Paulo in Brazil. One of the staples of the F1 calendar, and where our superstars will be heading to tonight, just over 4.3 kilometers in length. Only 3 sectors round here. A track of 2 halves, Sector 1 and 3 very much favoured top speed, whereas Sector 2 favours cornering performance and patience. Of course, Senna S, a good place to overtake, as well as down to T4 out of the Curva del Sol. Quite a bit of elevation change here. In fact, elevation change is from 44 metres, not quite 400 metres, that'd be a bit of a slope. 44 metres between the highest and lowest point, of course. Coming up the hill, you'll see the elevation change for yourself.
It's one of my favourite circuits. And joy of joys, it's almost as if the organisers have just given me a lovely present for the last race of the season. We're going into one of my favourite types of cars as well. It's the Group 3s, so let's take a little look at what they're all about.
The main stars of Gran Turismo Sport are the Group 3 cars, equivalent to the GT3 category in the real world. Group 3 cars still maintain the look of the production cars, but are made wider with large fenders to contain the massive racing slick tyres. In terms of aero modifications, these cars receive the highest level of modifications for cars based on production models. And the complex body parts produce powerful downforce on the track. Weighing in at roughly 1,350 kilograms with 550 to 600 horsepower, all cars are restricted to rear-wheel drive drivetrains. These are truly purebred race cars built to race from the ground up. As one unique feature in Gran Turismo, cars that do not have GT3 versions in the real world appear in Gran Turismo Sport in Group 3 incarnations. Cars like the Mazda 6 Group 3, the Jaguar F-Type Group 3, and cars with futuristic forms such as the Toyota FT1 Vision Gran Turismo Group 3 and the Peugeot Vision Gran Turismo Group 3 all appear in this category.
So, as per usual, it is a 15-minute qualifying session, and that will come before one of the highest lapped races on our season's calendar. 21 laps around Interlagos circuit. The modifiers for today's race will be fuel consumption at times 9 and tyre wear at times 5. Jimmy, are we likely to see different pit stop strategies during the race, or are we thinking that everyone's going to go the same way?
Well, fuel consumption pretty much dictates that we definitely have some form of pit stop at some point.
Yeah.
Looking around for the one stop around lap 10, around lap 11 for that. We did see a couple of two stops in the earlier race, but they didn't quite work out. Here's a little strategy there to give you a visualization of that pit stop. But from what I'm seeing, I think the one stop is the fastest strategy, of course. But that doesn't mean that fuel saving will not come into play and help you out and maybe give you a bit of a quicker pit stop, get you out in front of the other guys as well. So strategy always something that is going to take an effect in this race.
You know what? It's almost sad to be saying this. The final Manufacturer Series race in our final region for our final season tonight. Oh, dearie me. I'm excited and sad at the same time. I think it's more excitement, though. We're about to jump into qualifying, Jimmy. Before we do, let us remind you, this is a top 24 Superstars race, so bonus points on offer. It's a 1.5 times modifier from what we used to. So big opportunity for the guys tonight to really state their case for the Worlds. Let's not hold it on any longer. Let's head on into the game. And already, Jimmy, 15 minutes has been seen down to just over 9.5, and we already have times on the board. We saw in the EMEA region, anyone getting into those 131s pretty much guaranteed a top 10. You may look at those times and say 132s, 133s. Why would you say that 131s is guaranteed a top 10? Well, the entire grid, all 22 drivers were within, or was it 20? I don't know. Anyway,
8 tenths.
8 tenths, pretty much. Oh, that's what we're trying to.
Yeah,
I was looking at you doing all these weird fingers and things, and I'm like, what are you on about? No, 8 tenths separated the entire grid, Jimmy. The entire grid. The top 6 were separated by, what was it again? 700ths, I want to say. Or was it 600s?
600ths.
That's mental. Now, that's not, of course, saying that we will see that here tonight. However, it just goes to show, Interlagos, most people know, especially people in the Americas region. So many Brazilians racing at their home circuit, but you may know it well. The problem is that everyone else knows it well, and they know how to drive it brilliantly as well.
Of course, as I said before in our track guide, circuit in 2 halves really. First and third sector, all about top speed, all about traction, all about running the line of least resistance, whereas the middle sector is all about being technically minded, being good at getting the car to do what you want in a short space of time. Of course, having a good setup that would help. There's actually a fixed setup in this, so you can't really amend anything. So I mean, that means it's down to the car, which is where we get the differences in different cars and different tracks. I think James has been blinded there by the Viper coming down the straight. Worth to note, by the way, just to go to the times for a second, that Nico R, someone who's had a bit of a difficult time in the Nations Cup race, we'll let you go and watch that to find out what happened, currently leading on a 32-0. IOF Racing 17, surprise, surprise, is hot at his heels.
As is Gumball CGT. I had a brilliant pun, Jimmy. Do you mind if I share it?
You're going to do it anyway if I say yes or no, so...
Flash Golden.
That's not even good. That's not even good. This is why
I'm turning to sad again now.
this is why it's your last broadcast, James. I'm taking a decision.
Wow. I'm dead inside all of a sudden. Right. Top 5, including Gumball, Turismo, Leicester, Lloyd's Elite. Let's take a little closer look, actually, Jimmy. Serious faces now. Let's take a little closer look at the actual manufacturer battles, because we were talking about Racing 17 and Doodle. Nissan's there with a lot to worry about. Defsun, not so much. He's there in P8 in the Ferrari. There isn't even another Ferrari in the top 24, so he should be safe. He's now gone on to provisional pole position with a 131.9. That should guarantee him inside the top 10. Looking elsewhere, though, we of course have that incredibly close Citroen battle. Lloyd's Elite currently ahead of Hellsfire, but we also have the Porsche battle going on, of which for this top 24 Superstars race, only one has qualified, and that's solid. And the Brazilian at his home track has just gone up into 6th as well. McQueen in that dodge battle. He's got a lot to do to try and overtake Turismo Leicester, but he's going about it the right way. He's put in a 32.0. That puts him up onto the front row. So we'll keep you updated with these battles as they progress throughout the day. But a lot can be decided here on track. They need to make this qualifying session count, and then they need to convert that into the race.
Worth noting, by the way, that the vast majority of this field has just taken part in a Nations Cup race, so they're going to be fatigued. They're going to be coming in here having just run 8 laps of Le Mans in some of the fastest cars available in Gran Turismo Sport, and are now thrown together on this circuit Interlagos, which is, by comparison, very small and very compact, to have essentially a battle royale for 21 laps. So that might affect some people, some are others. Some are just tanks, some will just drive all day and not get any slower. But I know me, for example, that after an hour or two of intense racing, my mind's, I'm tired, I need to reset myself. So I'll be interested to see if that affects any of his guys at all. Although saying that, Defsun, Nico R, McQueen, Racing, Gumball, Solid, Leicester, pretty much the entirety of the top 10, they were in that race.
It must be considered as well, not all of these manufacturers are going to make it through to the Worlds. Only 16 of the 25 available manufacturers in Gran Turismo Sport make it to the World Finals, of which, of course, you then get that one driver per region going through as well. Now, again, we don't know the points standings. It's very obvious that some manufacturers are going at this point. They have a lot of strong point scorers. I'm looking at your Nissans, I'm looking at your Ferraris, I'm looking at Dodge as well. But for the likes of Alfa Romeo, for Hyundai, there is no guarantee that they're going to be making it there. And so for those racers, it could very well just be a fruitless drive simply for pride.
Possibly, of course, and you know, at this point of the season, if there's no mathematical chance of you guys going through, which unfortunately we can't tell you because we don't have brains that are big enough, or a brain between us, to be honest.
Too right.
But you know, definitely go out there and drive. Show the mark you've picked. Show that last little bit of respect. Go out there, do the best you can, and maybe try and get a few more points towards. Towards the pride standings, I'd call it. Of course, as we said, you aren't connected, or connected is the word, I guess, to this manufacturer for forever. If next season you think, you know what, I don't fancy driving a BMW again, I don't fancy driving a Porsche again, you can go and pick something else, new slate, and try again. But of course, this season, we're wrapping up now, this is what we're going to be focusing on. Right now, Nico are looking for a bit of free space. That's something else about the Interlagos circuit. It's actually very difficult to find a bit of free air, a bit of free track to go around in for your qualifying lap.
So we're going to be moving up the hill then towards the Aquibaracadas. Supposedly, these last 2 corners are called. I don't really count them as corners, but on the track maps, they're 14 and 15.
People have crashed there before.
People have crashed there before, albeit in tricky... Actually, no, sometimes not in tricky conditions. Either way, people have crashed here before, certainly. The Senna S. They were nice and clean in the EMEA race, which was a nice change from Monza a week ago. You'll notice there Ant moving up into P5 as Nico R now goes on down this second major straight, the Retro Posta, and into one of the better overtaking spots here, the Desida de Lago, Jimmy. And some people, they choose to go around the outside. More often than not, it's down the inside as they continue through here. And now we're coming up to one of these parts on the circuit where we've seen a lot of side-by-sides, but you need a lot of commitment as well. Ferradura, a lot of different lines into there.
Nico are taking quite a tight line, actually.
Tight line, yeah. But there's a lot of reasons for you to get it wrong as well, especially on that exit. We've seen people getting really caught out, actually, by the exit curve, not just going into turn 8, but up here as well. We saw 2 drivers going off into Boca de Pato. And it's just a simple mistake of trying to go out as far as you can to the curb and then bring it back in for a better line. Sometimes they go over. Anyway, through Magullo and into Yungkao, deceptively tight. And Nico R looking very good.
He's got a slipstream.
Indeed, he's got a slipstream. He is a thousandth off. Turismo Leicester there goes into provisional pole position, and 9-1-2, looking to be very close indeed up the top. We're going to look. Racing goes to provisional pole position, 8-4-3. What about Nico R? We're looking for an improvement, and it is an improvement, but not enough. So Racing 17 at his home circuit takes provisional pole position from Nico R. However, all of these guys all have 1 lap left, Jimmy.
1 lap left. One of the magic good things about this circuit is it's very short, so haven't got to worry about maybe not having enough time for another lap. IOF Racing there in that brick of a GTR. Good to see it out, and actually doing well here today. The Nissan struggling in other regions, it seems, doing a little bit better here today. And again, the gap between Nico R and IOF Racing is 17 thousandths.
That's super tight. That is super tight. The top 5 all setting 1:31s. The question is, can anyone else join them? Up the top of the circuit, I'm not seeing any chance of improvement for Nico R. He has caught that traffic at the worst possible time. For other people ahead of him, it might be an impact. He's just picked up a penalty, so Nico R is not going to be improving from that 1:31.860, though it should still be a very good position regardless of who else crosses the line. Speaking of, Racing 17
He's
running
up.
it out to the ragged edge. Goodness me, he's actually up on his provisional pole time by 2 thousandths. However, he happens to have Z28 in the Mitsubishi up ahead of him as well, so he's going to be taking a lot of slipstream down this last straight and a bit.
This should be an improvement if things go well. Let's have a look. Comes across the line. It is an improvement, but only just by 2 hundredths of a second. So every little helps, as someone once said. And,
5 Zegan in that train, actually able to get up to P9. There was an improvement by Windfire as well. Solid goes up into the top 7 again. He's the only Porsche here, so he's possibly guaranteed himself a spot at the Worlds. But at the end of qualifying here, it ends on the timer. It is Racing 17 at his home circuit, and in a Nissan, which was not expected to do well whatsoever, Jimmy.
Not at all, and of course, very importantly, beating TRL Doodle there, who would have it all to do in the other Nissan, but pole position well and truly taken there. And now we are waiting for the race to get underway. So IOF Racing, another pole from him. He's not someone who is unfamiliar with pole position, so he'll be happy there. Nissan, not great with a standing start though, good to keep that in mind. Nico R alongside in the BMW, with Turismo Leicester in the Dodge. Very fast starting is the Dodge.
Very start, yeah. Very start fasting.
Yeah, he might start fasting if he doesn't win this race. So we might see him move up, and Def Sun doing very well in that Ferrari, up in 4th position.
I've heard that it's not great on the tyres, that one. In the Citroen battle, could not be any worse for Hellsfire. Lloyd's Elite in the top 10. Hellsfire just scraping inside the top 20. And in the Dodge battle, it's looking good for Turismo Leicester. It would have required a monumental effort from McQueen to overhaul him. It still can happen in the race, though. Again, 21 laps on the counter to complete here. It's also close here in our final top 24 Superstars race of the 2018 season. And so Interlagos then plays host to the final manufacturers race of season 3 here in 2018. It's all decided here, and Racing 17 will be delighted on pole position in his home race. He's followed home by overall points leader Nico R in the BMW. Turismo Leicester in that golden Dodge will be looking to secure his place for Dodge at the Worlds. He's on the second row just ahead of Def Sun 96 in the lead of the Ferraris. P5, we find the first of our Mercedes, Gumball CGT, the American, in 5th, ahead of the second of our Dodges, McQueen 91. He's got to outscore Turismo Leicester at the very least. Solid, the only Porsche in the field. It could be today that he secures his chance to go to the Worlds. Lloyd's Elite in a close Citroen battle. He's got a job on his hands as well. Doodle, oh, he's got a task as well. He's got to go past our pole position leader to represent Nissan. 5 Ziegen rounds out the top 10 for Lexus. Ant in the Corvette there starts P11. And the American will be ahead of his compatriot Dodge Lam in the lone Alfa Romeo. Will they even be at the Worlds? It's to be decided. Same situation for Hyundai. That's where Windfire finds himself in P13. And in P14 we find another of our Corvettes, Cangretti, coming in there. Bakududu, the Argentine, starts P15 in the Renault Sport. And then P16 we have Mr. Stinky Bug back in that star-spangled Mustang. Outlaw Quadrant in his beautifully green chrome Jaguar starts P17. He's up ahead of Hellfire. Again, big job for him in that Citroen battle with Lloyd's Elite. P19 we find the Mazda Atenza of Cristiano Sa, and rounding out our top 20 we have our second of the Ferraris, Ears for Beers. Rounding out our grid then, it's Die Godlike, the Chilean, representing Honda. That is your grid, and this is your final start of the season.
It is now. Watch that Dodge in third position. Those things are lightning off the line. Standing start, revs beginning to rise, tensions rising with them. Lights coming on, 2 lights, 3 lights, 4, 5, banging off the rev limiter, drop the clutch and go. A good start there from FD McQueen at the front of our picture. Let's see who comes out. Desson up into third place, Desson up into second place, Desson up into the lead on the inside of the Ferrari. What a start from him. Turismo Leicester though pulling back across, and the Viper takes the lead into the Senna S though. IOF Racing has gone down to third place. A bad start from Nissan. Once again a great start from Turismo Leicester, but now Desson has to fend off that very fast in a straight line. Nissan Brick behind him. Gumball already with a 5-second penalty. Disaster start from him. That spells contact to me. Leicester leads going down to T4 for the first time, from Desson, from Racing, from Gumball, from McQueen, up the hill for the first time towards T6. A relatively clean getaway it seems at the moment, looking back from the rear spoiler of Turismo Leicester. Let's see if Desson getting any closer through here. Not really a place to overtake, although right on the rear spoiler, can almost reach out and touch it in that Ferrari. A little bit of a wiggle there from Leicester, coming round the exit of the corner, now down into the middle sector. All about mechanical grip through here and driver skill. IOF Racing right on the back. These guys are connected nose to tail, very close right now. Easy through the last part of the middle sector, and now down the long left-hander. IOF Racing getting all sorts of sideways there, impatient on the throttle. That's going to allow Gumball onto the rear. Leicester then is going to lead us up the hill, and that is the end pretty much of our first lap. Nice and clean so far, and a great start for Turismo Leicester.
Only 20 more laps to go, lads. And IOF Racing very lucky to get away with that slide there. Up the hill then we go. It is danger zone time. It is slipstreams time. And Desson fancies to go at this lead. He was so close to taking it at the beginning. The Dodge simply too good off the line for him. And going into the braking zone, there will be no attempt at a move either. Everyone going in line astern. Seemingly the case for the entirety of the top 10. Let's take a little look at people who didn't have the best starts. You'd say Hellfire, he's had a decent start, but not great. He's still got a long way to go. And Paul McQueen, there in P5. His main rival is leading the race. Not great for him. It's similar with Doodle, actually. Doodle only lost places at the start, and so Racing 17 looking very good for Nissan indeed. Someone who did have a good start, though, actually, is Dodge Lam. He seems to have picked up a penalty down there in P8, but regardless of whether Alpha is going to the Worlds or not, Jimmy, it's nice to see him giving it one last hurrah.
Of course, and that is going to be it for a lot of his drivers here. Some of them don't really have a mathematical chance of going through to the Worlds for the manufacturer. However, why not enjoy their last race? Go out there and treat yourself to the race against the best of your region. Of course, the top 24 superstars taking part in this, or top 21 in this race anyway. FD McQueen we're focusing on right now in that Dodge. I'm going to miss seeing the Dodgers going around here. They're great sounding, thunderous V10s making their way down the hill for the second time now. And up onto the straight once more. This climb fills up the car, runs out of power up here, but luckily the road starts to level out and you start to feel a little bit more enthusiastic with the engine pulling you along. Here is IOF Racing in third. Another penalty picked up, 2.2 seconds, and here at the front, Def Sun looking at the back at Turismo Leicester as he come across the start-finish line. Will he pull to the inside? No, that Viper just has a grunt at the end of a straight where it matters. Def Sun starts to line it up, but then the Viper just pulls away. Will he have anything though coming up from T3 and down to T4? You see how much Def Sun is struggling with traction with that Ferrari. We've heard that the MR cars tend to struggle with traction around here.
And that's allowing Racing 17 and Gumball CGT onto the back, of course, both of those with relatively sizable penalties at this early point. And I tell you what, for those two out front, they're going to be delighted in a grid filled with so many drivers affiliated to team. We've got Team Redline in there, we've got IOF, we've got Full Throttle with how many drivers is that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 drivers in the Manufacturers Cup or Manufacturers Series race today. And up front, it is two unassociated drivers, Turismo Leicester and Def Sun 96. I do wonder whether there's going to be any teams with maybe some watching eyes, you know, considering what might be for 2019. It's still a few months off though. We're here, we're now, we're in Brazil, we're in Interlagos, and Turismo Leicester still with a slight lead over Def Sun. Qualifying was a little bit more spread than the EMEA region, than the Asia-Oceania region. But you know what, Jimmy? In terms of the race, it's as close as any of them.
Definitely been a lot closer so far. We've seen in other races someone just leave from the race, the front and drive away, but not happening here. Again, Def Sun getting a great run on Turismo Leicester, watching the timing just go down, and then guess what? He has to get off the throttle and essentially wait because he hasn't got the grunt to get by. Someone else hasn't got the grunt right now is Nico R, losing out quite a bit in a straight line, but as soon as the braking zone comes, he's right back in there again, right up the tailpipe of FT McQueen in front. Of course, both belonging to the FT team. Wondering if there's any sort of team in there, giving him a little bit of a push through there. Gumball goes very wide. Nico goes through on the inside. Picks up a little bit of a penalty, I think, but I think I might have had that before, 0.8 seconds, and Gumball seemingly losing out. We missed that there. I'm not entirely sure what happened. I think he just got T3 wrong.
He just had a bit of a slip, didn't he? I saw his car going slightly sideways. And yeah, through we go, and yeah, it was just a real snap on the exit of the S, which allowed McQueen through, which allowed Nico R through. And actually, we haven't talked much about Nico R, starting on the front row, down in P5, similar to racing, he started on pole position, down to P3, but we know that those cars, they're not the best at starting, Jimmy. It's in the race where they excel. It's in the race where Nico and Racing excel. And for Nico R especially, he's only got 0.8 worth of penalty, a podium, a win. It is still not too far away, although it will be if he continues to slide through that.
Just to show you how competitive these races are, we have our top 3 Nations Cup drivers right now in the top 5 of the Manufacturer Series. So these guys are all super talented, and they're showing that just right now as they come round to complete, it'll be their 4th lap onto their 5th now. Something we'll have to mention, unfortunately, is the elephant in the room, is the amount of penalties we are seeing around here. We have been told by the drivers that this track is very easy to pick up a penalty for. McQueen
3rd.
Yes, McQueen passed IOF Racing. That must have been a move into T1 there. Yeah, when you see IOF Racing now all over the back of McQueen, looking to rectify that situation. Has that Nissan got the grunt to get by going down into T3? No, it does not. T4, sorry, it does not. Nico R, though, moving on to the back of Racing 17. And still holding on after his mistake is Gumball. So the top 6 right now, all looking pretty much interchangeable.
Even better news for Turismo Leicester is that Def Sun's just picked up a penalty himself. 2 seconds worth. So it's looking better and better for that Dodge driver, certainly, although he won't be happy with the fact that McQueen's moved up to P3. Because that means that he's in sight. That means that he can potentially overtake. Further back, Dodge Lamb, after a good start in the Alpha up to P8, he's lost positions now. 5 Zegan, solid. Both past him as well. And keeping an eye on Lloyd's Elite as well. Remember that Citroen battle, still looking very good for the Canadian ahead of the Brazilian Hellfire JP, still stuck down there in P14, though he doesn't have a penalty either. There is Lloyd's Elite in the GT by Citroen. Beautiful race car. And actually, I'm just questioning the pace of the front here, Jimmy, because it seems to me like it's almost a bottle cork effect. The problem is that the guy behind the bottle cork, Def Sun, he's not been able to keep up on the straight. And look at that again. Turismo Leicester just saying bye, just flashing his lights, seeing the rear lights, and Def Sun just can't get to him in this braking zone. It must be so frustrating, but it means that overall the pace is slowed down. It means that overall more and more cars are going to be joining this train, therefore making the positions behind first all the more susceptible to losing.
I don't really know. It seems that the Ferrari does actually have the pace to get by in a straight line. I think Def's son is just staying there. I think he's going, you know what, I'm going to save the fuel, I'm going to jump in and stop, nice and easy. He does have a penalty, as do most of the cars behind him at the moment as well, so maybe he's thinking about that. But Turismo Leicester, the flash of the hazards there was to say, don't get too close. Come on, mate. You know, we're racing. I'm not looking to get into any contact. He's just saying, I know you're there. All right, just behave. But yeah, I think Def's maybe playing the long game. We've got a while till our pit stops come around. If we do see any 2 stops, they'll come probably at the end of the next lap.
Yeah.
Otherwise, we're waiting to the end of lap 10, end of lap 11 to see our 1 stoppers coming in. And that's when we'll see if Def's son is in fact saving fuel or not. Because when we go up the hill, Def's son does gain on the Viper of Turismo Leicester, but then backs off again as we get to the end of the straight. Let's stay with Leicester here. Let's look backwards. Let's have a look and see what happens with Def's son. You see, the gap is pretty well maintained. If anything, the Ferrari is gaining very slightly. In fact, it is gaining now as we come up towards T1. So that tells me that Def's son is definitely saving some fuel.
The top 7 covered by less than 5 seconds. Look at that. It's like a long snake slaloming down the center S. That's a lot of S's.
Don't ask me to say that.
But I'm glad to see, well, again, we'll be seeing whether any 2 stoppers coming in at the end of this lap, but it must be said, the 1 stop, highly preferred as Nico R.
On iOF Racing.
Goodness me.
That was a proper door banger on the way through. Let's see that penalty
Oh, look
increase
at
for Nico
Gumball as
R.
well. Gumball's going to force his way through.
That was from a long way back. That move was never on for Nico R. I'm surprised not to see his penalty increase there from the 0.8 seconds. Maybe he was more or less alongside, but still,
You say never on, it just happened. He's into P4.
Well, never on without contact, as we would say. A very aggressive move, and perhaps channeling that of the late great Ayrton Senna and saying if you no longer go for a gap, you're no longer a racing driver. A sentiment both you and I very much disagree with.
Yes.
James, there's context to that, of course, but yes, down, sorry, not Countryman, sorry, Nico R is Chilean. So there you go. That's something I should have probably learned over the course of these last 2 races, isn't it? It shows you how much information that I retain as Nico R waving his rear end at Gumball, saying, nope, gonna have to work harder than that, mate.
So, our 2nd placed sitter from qualifying moves his way up. Gumball benefits as well. Remember, he's got a 5-second penalty, though. Massive in the context of things, especially with a grid this close. Again, Lloyd's Elite will be loving this as Solid and 5 Zegan further back exchange positions. Brazilian moving through into P8, 5 Zegan moving back into E9 with that Lexus. But yeah, Lloyd's Elite is going to be looking at this and really enjoying it. Unfortunately for Mr. Sinky Bug and for Ears for Beers, I don't think they're going to be enjoying this race one bit. They're both gone 2 stops. Back up at the front though, McQueen has remembered that he needs to beat Turismo Leicester tonight in order to secure that place at the Worlds for Dodge. Unfortunately for him, he's got a very stubborn Ferrari in between.
I'm sure that won't stop him. You've seen the pace of these Vipers once they're turned up in a straight line. Even with the BOP applied to them, you can't slow these things down. A lot of power there. Look how close he is to the back of Def's son, of course, aided by the fact he went wide there. And going wide, look what has happened. He's picked up even more penalty now. The rear end of that Ferrari doesn't seem to be attached to the rest of the car. He's sliding all over the place at the moment. Again, we mentioned the MR cars, the Ferrari being a mid-engine rear-wheel drive car, struggling a lot with rear traction, especially for this middle section on these traction zones, where the Viper seems to really have the edge. Let's have a look and see what sort of grunt the Viper has up the hill. We look back from Leicester. In the background, Nico R making his presence well and truly known by almost taking a swipe at McQueen. Again, that low drone of the V10 might not sound too quick, but by God is it. Here we are then in the slipstream. Def's son goes to the outside. He is going to defend it. FT McQueen goes to the inside of the centre S. Move done, nice and easy, just like that.
Dodge 1, 2, and that has got to be a punch in the gut to Def's son, who's been staring at the back of a Dodge for 8 laps consecutively now. Lap 9, he gets overtaken by one. No resistance offered. Behind IOF Racing 17, just about holding off Gumball CGT there as the battle for 5th rages on. Again, look at Lloyd's Elite. Was that a mistake from Gumball? Yes, it was. It's going to allow the Citroen onto the back of that Mercedes now. And Lloyd's Elite, he'll want to be careful though. He doesn't want to pick up a penalty himself. That is one of the major advantages that he holds at the moment. Only 4 drivers in this entire field do not have a penalty. Lloyd's Elite's one of them. Solid is one of them as well.
Yes, kind of sad to see that, to be honest.
5, I should say, including Turismo Leicester.
Yeah, it's 5, there you go. I was waiting for you to notice, to notice that. But yeah, it's just how it is. All the drivers are driving very hard, very easy to pick up a penalty around here at Interlagos. And I've said it before, I'll say it again, I really don't like seeing these races decided by penalties. But they are the rules of the game. You have to play within the rules of the game. Nico R is just flaunting there the rules of physics and just about keeping that thing on the road going up the hill. Of course, going uphill, you're going to have even less traction as you fight against gravity up the hill, and he only just kept that in one piece there. Nico R, someone who has had a bit of a frustrating night. Again, go and watch the Nations Cup race from the Americas if you haven't already. So I'm sure looking to maybe end on an upper rather than a downer.
Displaying as much grace as me on a dance floor, Nico R. But, oh, and again, he's wiggling about, but it's only because Defsun Ahead's had such a bad exit.
Hello.
Here goes Racing 17. He takes advantage of the situation. He gets his way past Nico R. Oh, we're going to see a double overtake into Interlagos. Racing 17 late on the brakes. Defsun late himself. He tries to keep it on around the outside, and Racing 17 takes the opportunity to lose a 10th of that overall penalty. Defsun 96 holds on, but just about. I do want to draw your attention down to P20. Cristiano Sarr has taken his pit stop. It is around that time where we're going to be seeing the 1 stop come into effect, but it's more lap 11, lap 12 we were expecting. So Sarr going with a very aggressive strategy. Trying to remain aggressive though is Racing 17, is Nico R. They want to try and make their way past this Ferrari that has been absolutely decimated on the straights. And you know what, Jimmy, as well, in talking to the drivers over on GT Planet, you know, in these communities, it must be said, those Ferrari guys were not too confident about their chances. They do not like their tyre wear around this circuit. Is Nico R again struggling? We hear about the Ferrari drivers complaining. Nico R must be absolutely decimating those tyres.
Yeah, it does seem that the tyre wear really starting to affect Defsun. Will he see him peel into the pit? No, he's going to go around one more time for that 1 stop, of course, but you cannot defend. Drivers in the background going to the pits, but in the foreground, IOF Racing drives past the Ferrari like it is standing still. So either Defsun is on a lower fuel mix or just doesn't have the grunt in a straight line compared to the other cars. I'm actually starting to think that it's the latter, and again, struggling on the tyres. The thing is, every time he does that, the tyre wear is only going to increase. Slow out of T3, Nico R to the inside now. Defsun is just going backwards. He would have really, I think, benefited from an early pit stop, just about able to edge out Nico, I think, into T4. Nico R looks at the inside. Not quite enough room there. Defsun does just about enough to keep him on the exit for now. And now they're side by side coming up to turn 6. Not really a place to be side by side. Defsun is going to have the inside with worse tyres. Nico R is not going to do it, is he?
Wow.
Is he going to drive? He drives clean around the outside of Defsun. There you go. That is what that is what tyre wear looks like on that Ferrari.
That is an outstanding move. Considering how many times Nico R has lost it going up the hill in Young Cow, that is exceptional. That is awesome.
There'll be a smile in that helmet right now, I can tell you that. But they're going to pit in this lap now, so...
Running out of superlatives, we should actually talk about pitters, because Lloyd's Elite and Solid, they decided, okay, we don't have a penalty. We're just stuck behind these guys. Let's go for the undercut. I think that's a really smart call, honestly, because now, up the front, we can see Turismo Leicester taking a tighter line. I imagine we're going to see a flurry of drivers in. Leicester in, McQueen in, Racing, Nico, Defsun coming in as well. I think I saw Gumball moving for the pits as well. Yes, indeed. And now we're going to see whether on this outlap, Lloyd's Elite and Solid have made up a lot of ground. Remember, the way the fuel works, if you've saved your fuel for longer, then technically you should be seeing a slightly quicker pit stop at this stage. But is that anything against better tyre grip on an outlap? We're going to find out now. Out of the pits they go. And actually, hold on.
Yeah. Leicester behind...
Leicester is behind the other Dodge of McQueen. But here comes Lloyd's Elite now. He has been or he has briefly taken the lead of this race. We're going to see on pit
It's going to be
exit.
tight on exit. There it is.
Is he ahead?
I think it is. No, side by side.
Word,
Here we
side
go.
by side. Wow. And so Lloyd's Elite has pulled the undercut. The Citroën driver, who is in a tight battle himself in this championship, has taken the lead, and he's ahead of McQueen, who has jumped Leicester, and who is also, talking of Leicester, he's also been jumped by IOF Racing. That is brilliant from Lloyd's Elite on the strategy front.
The thing is now, James, is does Lloyd's Elite have enough to get to the end? If he has to stop one more time, he's going to be, well, far down
Surely
the
not,
field.
it's a one-stop, it's got to be.
You can turn it down as much as you can, I think. He's going to have to do that through the middle sector and probably onto the straights as well. But now it's going to be damage limitation. These guys behind are going to be faster, even with the penalty. So Lloyd's Elite has it all to do now. It's going to be a hell of a last half of the race, and what better way to round off the Manufacturers Series of this season?
And it's fine margins, Jimmy, because look at the man he was battling with, Solid. He's basically remained where he was going into that pit stop phase. He's remained in P8. Lloyd's Elite has gained 6 positions overall. That is incredible. But now we're going to be looking to this battle that remains tight, pretty much from first down to 8th at this current stage in time. Turismo Leicester was leading. He is now P4. Up ahead, we can see McQueen already starting to harry
Nico
the back.
R on
As
Def
Nico
Sun.
R, wow, that was another late move into turn 1, and it's another move that's paid off.
Nico R's been very rude this race so far. A lot of argy-bargy going on, and we don't really like to see that so much. He might have got more of a penalty. The thing is, Def Sun sort of left the door open. And
Yeah.
you can't do that with Nico R behind you because he'll just go for it.
You can tell that I've commentated on touring cars for a long time, can't you? It's further up ahead. That's someone going wide. That's Lloyd's Elite going wide. That's Lloyd's Elite picking up a penalty, and it could very well be Lloyd's Elite losing the lead. He has remained ahead for now, and thankfully for him, the penalty is not the biggest out of the top 8. It's only a second in comparison to 3.5, 2.1 behind. I know that Gumball's still got the 5-second penalty to serve. But he was oh so close, Jimmy, to losing the lead of this race. If you thought that him performing the undercut was the end of it, no. He has got the biggest fuel job on his hands. He's got the biggest tyre job on his hands. And he's got 7 ready, raring and hungry racers behind him who want the win for themselves.
Turismo Leicester looking the strongest out of everyone so far because why? He does not have a penalty. He's kept it clean so far. And again, I don't like that this is how we have to think of these races. I wish the guys would make more of an effort to keep it clean. Of course, when you are pushing so hard, it's very hard, or very easy, I should say, to just put a wheel over the white line and pick up that penalty, of course, and that's how it is. But we'll go from there anyway. Leicester, yep, 4th, currently defending from the cars behind. Here is McQueen, 3.5 seconds is his penalty. You see all the cars with a little bit of oversteer there coming through T3. It seems everyone really tries to maximise the exit out of the S. So McQueen, will he ever run here? I don't think he will. He's not quite close enough. No, he doesn't. Nico R on Turismo Leicester from a year and a half back, throws it up the inside, cuts across the nose. That is overtaking masterclass. Nico R is going somewhere in a hurry.
You can criticise the lateness of his moves, you can criticise the slight rubbing and racing nature of his moves all you like. I think he's been brilliant personally. I'm sorry to disagree with you.
Touring car commentator, there you go.
You can tell, but these are tin tops. These are tin tops. You can afford to do that as long as you don't go over the edge, and that is an important point to raise. There is a balance. There is a balance, and the AI system will punish you if you go over that line. It has not punished Nico R as of yet. The only time penalties he has picked up are from track limits, which might prove to be a crying shame if he is in with a chance of winning this race. We're going a little bit deep into Young Cow once again. Able to wrap it up on the inside, but now he's going to be going into the slipstream of the barge. It's the Nissan of Racing 17. These two were on the front row, now just scrapping away for a podium. They do have the 2 up ahead, although the 2 up ahead are starting to gap. McQueen and Lloyd's Elite, they're leaving these guys for dead, as Def Sun there loses yet another position. The Mercedes of Gumball moves on through, And that's Mr. Stinky Bug there. I saw him dropping down the order. That's because he's coming in for his second pit stop. He's going to be finishing near the back. Not finishing near the back of these two, though. Nico R, another little slip on the exit of the Center S. And look how instantly, to the inside, Racing 17 goes. He's seen behind us. McQueen! Sorry, we've got to go back up to the front. McQueen, I think that must have surely been a mistake, similar to what we saw with Nico R. Unfortunately for Lloyd's Elite, it has proven costly. And through Decido Delago, before Decido Delago even, McQueen 91 has taken the lead of this race. Here is the replay then. No, it wasn't even a slip. It was simply a fantastic overtake from McQueen, flashing his lights, letting Lloyd's Elite know, listen, I'm going to be taking the lead here. Lloyd's Elite choosing the opportunity to just let him through, serve a bit of the penalty, but also keep an eye on this. They are teammates at full throttle, right? McQueen needed to win this in order to try and overtake Turismo Leicester.
My point that I was going to come to just there, I think that might have been a little bit of team tactics there. Very possible. In fact, we actually saw a bit of that in the last race. We saw in the European region as well, some people getting out of others' way to try and allow them through to the finals because maybe they were already through. However, that does open Lloyd's Elite now open to Nico R, who we've seen is fancying himself as a bit of a Sandy McSenderson at the moment. So I'm sure we'll see more of that to come. We're on lap 16 now. The race has absolutely flown by here, action all the way, and this is why I love these superstar races. You're never short of action. Nico R, all sorts of side plays all the way through there. Not quite sure how he kept that under wraps. I'm sure the toast in the back is a little bit ruined at the moment.
Actually, he's overtaken Racing.
He has.
We completely missed that.
We did.
But
we're good
he is
commentators.
there.
As I say, Leicester's just fallen back now, P5.
Yeah.
He's not having a good second stint. I think ever since he came out later to McQueen, maybe the motivation somewhat faltered. Although there was also a possibility that he was holding up the rest of the field, and then as he pitted, some of the field were released, and now they're pulling away.
There is still the factor of penalties.
There is.
And as much as I agree with you, I don't like to see races decided by penalties. At the same time, I'm actually kind of excited because I don't know what order these guys are going to come out in. I mean, you look at that, 9.9 seconds, 6.3 seconds, 5 seconds. That's everyone behind Turismo Leicester. Turismo Leicester, of which he's within 2 seconds of the lead. 2-3 seconds of the lead, right? Ahead of him, he's got Racing 17, 3.3 seconds. Nico R's was at 1.8 seconds or something, isn't it? McQueen, our leader, is 3.5 seconds deep in time penalty, which he has to serve. At current speed, that would put him outside the top 5, Jimmy. So, I think honestly it is the smartest thing for these full throttle guys to do. Lloyd's Elite probably knows that McQueen 91, he's only got a limited amount of laps to try and pull out a lead here. Worst case scenario, he comes second. Best case scenario, he just goes into the lead because McQueen has to serve that time penalty.
Yeah, it does. And here is McQueen. The flat-out Fred, guys. I'll give you that. It's,
oh yeah, no, it's not full throttle. I mean, they are going full throttle, but
yeah, and here he comes there through T4. He's the best thing McQueen can do is try and gap these guys as much as possible. He's got a clear track now. He's got a good car, and he's showing that he's got the pace. So the bigger the gap, the more likely he's going to come home with this win. And Lloyd's Elite in the background now has to deal with Nico R, who's closed up massively over the last lap or so. Now Lloyd's Elite has the advantage in terms of penalty. But Nico R has the advantage in terms of aggression at the moment. I've not seen the Chilean drive such a determined drive in all the weeks I've been commentating here on the Gran Turismo Sport Manufacturers Series. We'll see if he wants to pull something similar with Lloyd's Elite. Now, I'm not quite sure what the Citroen has in a straight line. I think it's somewhere in the middle. But where Nico R has the slipstream, look how close he is now coming out of Yunkao up the hill. For the 17th time of asking, there'll be only a few laps left once they cross the start-finish line. Nico R very slowly pulling in, and we've seen he likes to move into T1. Will he ever go now? The gap's coming down, just under tenth and a half. Flash the light, say, hello Lloyd, I'm here, I'm coming up the inside. Nothing you can do about it, mate. Thank you very much. I'll go up into second. Lloyd's Elite, I think maybe did the right thing in letting that go there. But he'll be frustrated with having lost that position. Like, what a great camera angle it is, seeing them all get loose simultaneously out of there.
He might be off the podium now as well, because here comes Racing 17. There is no team love here. And Racing 17 choosing to serve a little bit more of that penalty behind. That was Gumball going side by side with Turismo Leicester, yes. 5 Segan in there as well.
Where did he come from? 5 Segan has sort of snuck up the rankings, it seems. The thing is, he's got a big old penalty, 6.5 seconds. A lot of them have got these big, ridiculous penalties. And yet they continue to fight tooth and nail.
There goes Gumball up the inside. He's going to send it. Turismo Leicester hangs on around the outside nicely.
Return to sender, that one.
Return, yeah. Address unknown.
It's pattern folder. Here comes Gumball. No, thinks better of it. I think Gumball will probably have a run on the straight. The AMG's always been pretty quick around here, so we'll see if that how that compares to the Viper in pure grunt. At the top of the field, Nico R. Yep, he's now gaining actually on McQueen. So I wonder if Nico R's got enough to catch McQueen. Thing is, Nico R penalty, guess what? Is less than McQueen's penalty. So if he gets there, that could be a win for Nico R.
It could be.
If he gets there, he's got to get there and get there cleanly. The big, saying that, here comes Gumball, somewhere over the side. Oh wow, decides to go to the right at the last second. Almost runs into the back of Turismo Leicester in the Viper. Leicester's going to hang him out to dry on the outside, keeps 5th position for now, but here comes another straight as we go around the curve of Del Sol. Gumball right on the inside, too much, hits the curve, gets a little bit sideways, that's going to slow him up. Will he still have a look here? He's still going to have a slipstream, I think a little bit too far back to have a go. We've seen Nico come from further back than this.
Racing 17, sorry, further up the road. He's gotten through on Lloyd's Elite, he's onto the podium position. But now, those penalties, how much of an effect are they going to have? I look up to McQueen, and I'm thinking, I don't think he's going to fall off the podium. I look up to Nico R, and I can't see him falling behind Racing 17. I don't think this podium is out of Lloyd's Elite's hands. And again, I repeat, it would be a shame for these drivers to lose the podium. But again, all they care about is where they finish on track and where they score points in comparison to their rivals. And for Lloyd's Elite, the undercut has worked. He's gained positions overall. More importantly, he's gained positions on his fellow Citroen rival, Hellsfire, who's been unable to move himself out of the mire that is everything outside the top 10. We are going to be heading onto the penultimate lap of this race once we cross the line for the 20th time of asking. McQueen still leads, but only by 3.5 seconds. Again, it's such a shame for Nico R. He's picked up all of those penalties from track limits. Is it going to be enough to see him through to the win of this race, Jimmy? It's so close.
I think you might have this, you know, they are pulling away from third place behind, and at the moment the penalty is actually less than the gap, so a great chance there. Lloyd's Elite still just about holding on to 4th place. That car getting a little bit skew-whiff now. Of course, the tyres are going to be a little bit older than the guys around him, pitted quite early for that undercut. But of course our focus as we get onto the penultimate lap is going to be the fight between McQueen and Nico R. Less than half a second in it at the moment. This is for your lead of the race, and we'll get a camera on that. There it is. There is Nico serving a bit of penalty, down to 1.5 seconds now. So this is looking even stronger and stronger in Nico's R favour. But we know Nico R is capable of slipping up in the last few laps of a race, so it's not over until it's over. But now, right on the back of that Viper, he can reach out and touch the rear wing if he wanted to, though I doubt that would be too good for his cornering ability. Comes through now, this tight right. See the Viper, you can hear the Viper spinning up the rear tyres in an effort to get out of the corner as quick as possible. That would be good for the tyre wear. Looking back now, going to get a great view of the BMW coming up the hill for the second to last time. FD McQueen 91, 3.5 seconds behind if his penalty. Behind him, Nico R, 1.5 seconds is his penalty. Behind them in the distance is IOF Racing and Lloyd's Elite behind him. What has Nico R got for this last lap? Does he want to do it on track, or is he happy to sit there and just take the win based off penalties? Let's find out.
All to be decided here. You can see there is a big gap back from Nico R to Racing 17. And for Lloyd's Elite, it is crucial that he stays within that second. If he stays within a second, then he is pretty much guaranteed a podium. But what we're looking at here is the race for the win. 4 kilometers remain for this win to be decided, and Nico R, he wants to get it done on track. Of course he wants to get it done on track. He wants to leave nothing to chance. McQueen 91 with those 3.5 seconds of penalty. Nico are only with the 1.5, but he wants to get it done right now, right here. Oh, almost contact going side by side through Ferradura and McQueen. He knows he's just got to score points here at this stage. He knows that Turismo Leicester is still so close behind. Nico R flies through. He's been doing what he has done all race, which is throwing it up the inside, making sure that he breaks late. And we're going to see him home here. Remember, he still has to serve that penalty, so goodness knows if that might throw a late spanner in the work. But through Magullo we go then, towards Young-Cal. We're going to be keeping an eye further back as well. Lloyd's Elite 1.3 seconds behind Racing 17. It might be close for the podium, especially considering that Turismo Leicester is within a second. But round the final couple of corners, they are going to come now. They did provide us with a last lap finish. At least you can see that the flashing of the lights from McQueen. I think he knows what's about to happen. The penalty is depleted. And interestingly enough, Nico R has been given the win. No, I lie. Almost given the win. Nico R did take it from McQueen. It looked a little closer for comfort, didn't it? Racing 17 was able to take the podium there. Lloyd's Elite 4th, Leicester 5th. Gumball solid, Doodle, 5 Zegan and Ant round out the top 10. So Devson only finishing 11th. A really poor second half of the stint there for the Canadian. I don't want to call it, Jimmy, but I think that they might have botched a giving of the win.
Yeah, that's what I saw. I don't know what happened there, because Nico R served his penalty, then just didn't speed up, and then sped up right at the end, and by that point McQueen didn't quite get it. It reminds me of a certain Formula 1 thing that happened a while ago when the wrong person ended up on the top step of the podium. I think the same thing happened there, and I am very much confused by that. I'm sure maybe Nico R's going, oh well, I've run another race, what a shame. Whereas McQueen's going, come on, we agreed to this, we chatted about this. I don't know. It's just speculation at this point.
To be fair, looking at the penalties, looking at the race itself, I think we've got a very deserved winner. Nico R lost out at the start. Remember, he started on the front row, fought his way back up. He had to get elbows out, but he will be feeling so sweet at the end of what has been a trying evening overall. Our points leader there picking up maximum points again. If BMW do go through to the Worlds, he will be their driver. What if McQueen was supposed to win, though, in that particular situation? And what if the win would have given McQueen the Dodge spot at the Worlds? That might get slightly awkward for internal team affairs.
We'll have to wait and see. We'll wait until the people who are far more intelligent than us add up all the numbers.
Yes.
And then we'll see if that is the case. If that is the case, then, yeah, I think you're right. There might be a little bit of conversation in that flat-out threat team. But, of course, really, it is an effort for your manufacturer, and it is BMW versus Dodge in that case. And I'm sure Nico will be very happy that he's taken full points for BMW, and I now fully expect him, of course, eligibility being in the way there, that he will be in the Worlds with that BMW, surely.
Lloyd's Elite doing an excellent job there to really hammer on home. I am the man for Citroën. Solid, doing what he needed to. Solid performance, securing his place for Porsche, so we believe. Doodle not able to do enough in that Nissan, unfortunately, racing for him too far up ahead. Def Sun just further cementing. I mean, he'll be disappointed with P11, but he was always secured that position for Ferrari anyway. And really, for those lower-end manufacturers, the Hyundai only finishing 13th, the Alfa only finishing 15th after a great start and qualifying from Dodge Lam.
Just went backwards in the race.
Yeah.
Didn't quite have, I think, the race pace, a little bit of tyre wear perhaps. A bit of a shame for Dodge Lam. He would have been looking to give that Alfa a nicer send-off. It's a very pretty-looking car, as we said many times before. Just not quite enough to do the goods.
Interesting statement here from Outlaw Quadrant.
He's free from the Fat Cat, the Jaguar.
I don't think he wants to use the Jaguar next season.
I don't think we'll be seeing him in the Jaguar next season. I don't think we will. But of course, that's one of the cool things about manufacturers, is that you're only tied to them for one season. After that season is done, free pick.
Absolutely. So, I think it's time to wrap things up fully this time. League play is done and dusted. The online phase of these Gran Turismo Championships, certified by the FIA in 2018, it's all done, Jimmy. It's now left to the computers to tot up all the points and to deliver to us our final definitive list for the regionals, for the Worlds, for the Nations Cup, for the Manufacturer Series. Of course, you can find all of them once they are available on gran-turismo.com and in-game on Gran Turismo Sport. What a ride it has been, though.
It's been very special to be a part of it. I say that as a commentator, I've been here for the full lot of broadcasts we've done, and to learn about the drivers, about their strengths, their weaknesses, see development of some drivers. Some get better, some get worse, and be a part of this fantastic, I guess I'd say, as class-leading esports series backed by the FIA, as we've said many times before, is just a very, very humbling experience to be asked to be along, and I'm very excited to see where it goes in the future. I
can only echo those thoughts. Of course, the online phase may be over, but the live phase has only just begun. Keep an eye out on Gran Turismo social media. We may have some news coming your way regarding a World Tour event, maybe, before the regionals. Who knows? But talking of those regionals, we can, of course, confirm that the 6th to 7th of October, those are the dates you've got to keep in your calendar for the Asia-Oceania regional finals. They're going to be held in Tokyo, Japan. No grander setting, I don't think, for our first regionals in the Gran Turismo Championships. It should be an amazing time. And remember, if you want to catch up on all the racing action up until this point, again, thank you so much for sticking with us, by the way, and making sure that we get these broadcasts out to see the full races. All of our back catalogue is on Gran Turismo TV YouTube, so make sure to subscribe to that for any future content. I'm afraid that is all, though. A massive, massive thank you to all of the creators of this brilliant championship, to the tech team behind the scenes, making sure that they bring these pictures to you. Jimmy, massive thank you to you. It's been a pleasure, sir.
As always, James.
As always, I have been James Kirk, and from all of us here, we'll see you at the regionals. Take care. Take control.